from the Alley on Main. Top the night off with a fabulous silent auction. Go to firstshotTN.org for more information and see you at Autumn at the Alley September 25th.
We're the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, audio and video streaming at wgnsradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Good morning. This is Bill Krause on a beautiful Thursday morning. Waiting for rain and wind, but that kind of makes things change. We're very, very delighted to have with us not only a gentleman who's played a significant role in the community for the last 25 years, but a good friend for many, many years. Hard to think it's since 2018, so time does pass. Mr. Cliff Sharp, who's the executive director and the founder of Greenhouse Ministries, and as we were talking prior to the show, 25 years of service to the community.
How blessed I've been.
And the community
as
as
I
well.
tell people, this is what I get to do.
Absolutely. And while we will probably make some reference to Greenhouse, Cliff and I are going to be talking about history, his history. He came in with a Look magazine, for those of you who remember magazines, Life and Look magazines and so forth, and showed a picture of him in the late 1950s?
57.
57, graduating from high school. Tell me how you made national news.
Well, it's interesting. Tom Greenwade was a scout at that time. They had a lot of baseball scouts that that went around and just talked to different people. And so we had a pretty good baseball team, and he was.
Your high school was where?
Mountain Home Bombers.
That's where
Mountain
the Air
Home,
Force
Arkansas.
Base was.
Do what?
That was where the Air Force Base was.
No, it was actually that's a whole long story that we won't get into.
All right.
How they got the name Bombers. It had nothing to do with anything about Mountain Home. But anyway, he came down to talk to the catcher who was very good, and he had contacted the coach and asked if they could do a program, an article on checking with somebody in the Ozarks, and so I didn't know anything about it till I got there, and then the coach and the principal, after the ball game was over, they introduced me to him. And so we visited, and they went home with us, and it was really interesting. It was Tom Greenwade and his photographer, and then the writer. And we always had a big supper at my house, and so of course Mother
Very
invited them all to supper, and the two the photographer and the writer were both from New York. And so it was funny. We just had regular good old country cooking.
Southern cooking.
And then we got through, and Mother had made a big peach cobbler.
Wow.
With and we just put cream, just heavy cream on top of it. And they looked around, and the guy was looking to see what we was doing. He turned to Tom and he said, "Is this the way that we do it?"
To learn the traditions.
But anyway, it was really interesting to visit with him. And
had you been in consultation prior to that meeting with scouts and baseball?
I had talked to one and consequently, I was not drafted. I was, but I got an opportunity. I could have signed with either the Yankees, the Cardinals, or the Reds.
Would you have gone to a farm team initially?
Right. The catcher signed with the Cardinals and went to the West Texas New Mexico League, and he played 1 year. and he said, "This is not for me." But they offered us $500 a month in room and board,
Oh, that's
and
big money.
That was good money for me.
Exactly. What was your position primarily?
I played shortstop.
Shortstop, okay.
And
these given out years later?
I, of course, played in college. I was fortunate to make all conference in college, and but I had an appointment to West Point. This was something I wanted to do, and so I was not good enough to ever make the major leagues. I knew that, and so I just decided that I wouldn't do that. And then the next time I talked to Studdard, who was our catcher, he said, "You better be glad you didn't do that. You didn't sign it."
Oh, absolutely.
He said all we did was rode on buses.
Exactly.
And you get out in
small
West
town to
Texas,
small
New
town.
Mexico. I mean, it's a long way between towns. But
Sure.
But anyway, it was really interesting. Tom, before he had come down, had visited with Preacher Rowe. Preacher Rowe
really?
was a Harding graduate. And,
I didn't know that.
Right, and
For those who go historically into baseball, very significant player.
he played for the Dodgers. Of course, I was a big Dodger fan.
Okay.
I was my dad was a Cardinal fan, and I was a Dodger fan. But so we had a lot of good discussions. But I had, since I was first alternate and not the full
primary
representatives candidate, I said I'll just go to Arkansas 1 year and take some courses and make sure I can do all right. And then, as I was telling you earlier, I had a sister that lived in West Texas, and she said there's lots of jobs out here in the oil field. And so anyway, I hitchhiked from Mountain Home, Arkansas to Midland, Texas.
Wow.
And this is 1957. People just did
No
that
interstate
then. You just
little
take off.
two-lane road.
It took me 2 days. But it was not any problem. But then the interesting thing, as I worked in the oil field, I made enough money that I could every summer that I could pay for my schooling. But
How much were you earning? Do you remember?
I was earning $1.97 an hour.
That was good money in the
It was
50s.
excellent
Yes,
money,
yes.
and I worked 7 days a week,
Wow.
and got time and a half for all over 40.
Overtime. Yep.
And so what I tried to do, I would get I wanted to work third shift, and that way I could do anything I wanted in the daytime.
In the daytime.
And so not only two of the summers, I was able to coach a little league team while I was while I was out there. So anyway, it was fun. But July of 1957, the last week, I got a letter from my mother, and she said, "Since you're going to school 1 year before you go to West Point," she said, "I enrolled you at Harding."
Wow.
and I thought, well,
You
I'm
knew
I'm already accepted at the university, but I guess so. So anyway, I'd never even been to Harding, but it was, of course, life changing because
Yes.
that became.
That was home for many,
where
many
I went
decades.
to school and then ended up teaching there for 24 years. So
Coaching.
it's so much fun to look back at crossroads
Exactly.
in your life and see what how the providence of God just makes a difference.
Exactly.
And if you just say yes to Him, He'll take you where it's the best. It's the best.
Well, and what's so key, and I can't stress it strongly enough, so long as you have your memory and you look upon the happy times, the positive times of life, I can be driving alone on an interstate, and I'll break out laughing if I hear a song on the air, and that song takes me back to a particular episode, experience, or people in the 50s and early 60s. And I kind of feel I'm the only one of 8.3 billion people in the world who is enjoying and laughing something on a memory. The memories are treasures. And believe it or not, 3 years ago, I had my 65th high school reunion probably one of the oldest reunions in the United States. And what is so key is that when we all got together, yes, we laughed about stories, we laughed about teachers we had, we laughed about different things we did, but we also had an optimism of how the world has developed and how we have developed and so forth. You know, I consider myself very fortunate, and I tell students this, and it really gives you a historical train. My dad was born in the 19th century, 1898, and I have grandchildren who, no question, will live to the at least 2101. So I look at my life, and I've got a span of 300 years, 3 centuries, and it's somewhat interesting to be able to look back the 19th century and look ahead to the 22nd century. It gives a historical perspective. You brought
and the changes that take place. Let me tell you an interesting story. I went to my 65th graduation. There was 12 of us there.
Well, we had 19.
Yeah, we had 12. And one of the stories that one of the fellows recalled that was interesting, we were at the state baseball tournament, and it was in Clarksville, Arkansas, and we were staying in the dormitory there at the college. But there was no air conditioning there. Wow. But there was air conditioning at the movie. And the movie that had just come out was Rock Around the Clock.
Oh, which was one of the first 2 rock and roll songs, Rock Around the Clock.
Right.
You remember the other one? Remember the other song that broke into rock and roll?
Which one?
Life Could Be a Dream.
Shaboom,
Shaboom, shaboom.
shaboom.
Right. Yeah. 1954, Rock Around the Clock. And also...
Rock Around the Clock, the movie was 56.
Yeah. Then I'm thinking also of 54. I'll think of it somewhat during the program.
But here's what happened that was interesting. We went to the movie, and... when the Platters were in the movie, and and when he hit that high note, the balcony erupted.
Wow!
But because the black people had to be in the balcony,
segregated
they
theater.
couldn't. It was all segregated, and it was interesting because there were no black people in our part of Arkansas at that time, and so it was really, really interesting. And you think, well, why did they have to set up there?
Absolutely.
It was just a different concept. But that was one of the things that one of the friends brought up. He said, what an impact that made on his life. He became an attorney, and he said,
always remember.
Right.
You brought a Look magazine that highlighted you, and just thumbing through it, and Look magazine and Life magazine were the 2. Were they weekly or monthly? I think they were monthly.
I think they were monthly,
and they were, quote, major communication outreaches in the United States.
Right.
Time magazine, U.S. News and World Report, Newsweek. Today, the magazines are pretty much defunct. Although I was watching something here recently that they opened up a exhibit for Mad Magazine. And
Really?
They celebrate 50 years of What Me Worry of Mad Magazine. You took a look at prices. You took a look at the pace of living. And I think that probably the pace of living is the one thing that makes a huge difference between those times of the 50s and early 60s and today. Social media has suddenly increased the pace of living. You've got to be right on top of it. You've got to see who's texted you, who's got to get right back. Pace of living was a lot slower, and I consider the thought that the pace of living may have had you think more deeply because you had the time to think more deeply into things.
I think it did too. I think that, and you talked more with people and discussed things, and you discussed not in an argumentative manner, but just to present your ideas and listen to theirs.
Exactly.
One of my dad's statements, he said, everybody has an opinion, and if you don't think more of yours than you do anybody else, why have an opinion? But always be willing to listen to theirs, because you may need to change your opinion.
Well, with the presidential election coming up in 40 days, I immediately think back of the election of 1956 between Dwight Eisenhower, re-election, and Adlai Stevenson running for his second term, or second time. Stevenson and Eisenhower initially went in 52. And even the issues discussed and even personalities contended. You still had the same arguments, but the arguments were far more civil.
They were.
I think, he said, I may disagree with you. I don't like this person. You like that person. We never really said, let's agree to disagree, but we didn't take it so personally. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the one difference is we intensify. So you enjoyed buying gas at 19 cents a gallon?
Absolutely, at 19 cents a gallon, and Cokes for a nickel. And
McDonald's, you went and you got the Big Mac and fries for what, 40 cents? Something like that.
There was no McDonald's close to where I lived.
No.
Actually, there was one in Memphis after I got into college, and I know my wife lived in Columbia, and so as we went from Searcy to Columbia, we'd always stop at the McDonald's. The fries were 19 cents, and the hamburger was a dime.
Yep.
I mean 15 cents, and so anyway, you could go to the movie for a quarter.
Oh, absolutely.
And still get you some popcorn and a Coke.
And you even had penny gum. You just put a penny into the machine and flip. Or you had payphones. When's the last time you saw a payphone? And
it's interesting. My first day in college in my English class, my English professor said, I want all of you to get out a clean sheet of paper, and I want you to write a short essay on the disadvantages of a left-handed person in a phone booth. So we had to think of a phone booth and then think of how it was set up.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I'll never forget, that first one. I thought, what in the world am I getting into?
Wow. We're having a delightful visit with Cliff Sharp, Executive Director of the Greenhouse Ministries, celebrating this year its 25th anniversary, I should say 25th birthday. And I do want to spend right after the break a few moments talking about Greenhouse, and then we'll get back to some historical shares. But we will be right back.
Washington is broken, and not just a little. Radical left elitists have betrayed our country, trading common sense for woke politics. An unchecked invasion at the southern border. China buying up U.S. farmland. Historic inflation that has American families fighting to survive. All while the left gives trillion-dollar handouts. It's bad. But without leaders like Marsha Blackburn, it would be worse. Marsha Blackburn has never been afraid to take on the woke mob or her own party. That's why Marsha led the fight to make sure Tennessee is never burdened with a state income tax. Now Marsha is fighting every day to restore sanity in Washington and to protect the rights of Tennesseans. Marsha Blackburn is more than the leadership we need in the Senate. She's the leadership that will save America for the next generation. Marsha Blackburn, real strength for Tennessee.
I'm Marsha Blackburn, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Marsha for Senate.
Are you tired of feeling like just another number with your insurance provider? At Rayburn Insurance Agency in Smyrna, Agent Rick Hall prides himself on offering personalized service that puts you first. Every client's needs are unique. From personal home and auto coverage to tailored business insurance, Rick Hall's got you covered. Rick Hall at Rayburn Insurance Agency in Smyrna, where you're more than just a policy number. You're a neighbor.
Hi, this is Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates. You might know me as the voice of the Blue Raiders, but I want to be your trusted advisor in real estate. Whether you're buying or selling, it's time to choose Chip. Do you have a growing family and need to upsize? Are you an empty nester now and need to downsize? Are you thinking of selling your current home but just worried you can't find something else? Well, it's time to choose Chip. I'm looking to be your trusted advisor in real estate. I'm Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by AmeriCare Pest Control and the law offices of John Day.
I've got pests.
AmeriCare is Rutherford County's #1 choice in pest control, and it's simple to see why. After calling 893-7111, their staff came to my house 8 years ago when I had an insect problem. They looked at the situation, showed me the areas and what they'd recommend to resolve the problem. After treatment and with quarterly checks, I'm bug, critter, and creepy crawly free. Thanks, AmeriCare.
Call the best of the best to get rid of your pest.
AmeriCare, 893-7111.
Now, WGNS Good Neighbor Events. The Rutherford County Health Department is having a winter coat drive. Bring those new or gently used clean coats on a hanger. Bring them over to the Health Department any day now through October 15th. And that's at 100 West Burton Street in Uptown Murfreesboro. Oh, and don't forget, this is flu season, so head over to the Health Department and get your free flu shot. They're also doing that at the Health Department in Smyrna, along with their office on the Old Woodbury Highway in Kittrell. Some great farmers markets to enjoy. One is the Farmers Only Market. Only produce grown locally is available at that one, and that farmers market is every Tuesday and Friday morning from 7 until noon over at the Lane Agri Park. There's another farmers market on Saturday morning from 8 until noon, all around the historic Rutherford County Courthouse. That one's presented by Main Street, Murfreesboro. There's a farmer's market at the Smyrna Depot. That's where they're also having Depot Days this weekend. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor Events.
Rutherford weather.
A flash flood watch is in effect this afternoon, and there's a slight chance of showers of thunderstorms and partly sunny with a high near 80. Tonight, showers of thunderstorms will continue, and some could produce heavy rainfall with a low around 65. I'm meteorologist Jay Marzik on News Radio WGNS. Right now, it's 65 degrees.
WGNS is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. As a member of MTE, you have access to educational resources to help you tailor energy use to your lifestyle. Interested in electric vehicles? MTE offers incentives to learn about EVs and connect with others who share your interest.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
This is Bill Krause again in the second segment of the WGNS Roundtable on a beautiful Thursday morning. We're having a delightful visit for a tremendous man, one of the great resources of both Murfreesboro and Rutherford County, Mr. Cliff Sharp. Cliff, let's take a few moments and talk about Greenhouse Ministries, the 25th year. Kind of take us back how you first began. You and your lovely wife first began Greenhouse. What inspired you?
It really is interesting to see, again, getting back to those crossroads. Mm-hmm. We left Harding, and I'd been there 30 years, and we thought I was going to work for Belmont Church in Nashville, mm-hmm. and that didn't work out. And so I ended up starting to work for Crisis Pregnancy Center. They were needing a public relations, mm-hmm. and I was there 3 weeks and the director quit, so I became the interim director for the next 9 years.
Wow.
But
short term.
Right, short term interim director. But what happened while I was there, I say I had my big epiphany, and my big epiphany was everybody didn't think like me.
Well, that's always been the story.
Right, that's a good starting point. But specifically, there's a whole segment of the population that I literally did not know existed. Mm-hmm. I grew up poor in northern Arkansas, but I did not
know you were poor.
I didn't know I was poor, but I did not know people that did not feel like they had opportunities and dreams and goals that they could achieve. Mm-hmm. And then I come across the whole segment of the population that's their mindset. Mm-hmm. Has nothing to do with intelligence or anything. It just simply, this is how they've been taught. Mm-hmm. And so as Janie and I started seeing this segment of the population, our thinking was, what can we do to help them maybe change their thinking? Mm-hmm. And I knew that without developing relationships, you're not ever going to change anybody or help them. You're not going to change anybody. You're going to help them change. And so we wanted to do something that we could get to know people. And so we just started to begin with, we just started going to the project areas. And at that time, Kroger's would give us all the day-old bread we wanted. I had a little white Ranger pickup, and I'd go completely loaded up and go to 3 different of the project areas and pass it out and visit with people and find out what was going on. And then...
and this is in Murfreesboro.
This is in Murfreesboro, right. This is while we were here. And so Jane and I just decided this is something that we think God is calling us to do. So we talked and, of course, got a board together and filed for our 501c3. But, again, you get to those crossroads. We went to a pastor's conference in Phoenix First. And it's a very large church, and they had 209 ministries in their church.
Wow. That is
and a bunch of them were not even run by them. And they said, if somebody comes and says, we would like to do this, they said, we don't have any money, but if you want to do it, and it's we'll let you, move forward. So anyway, it really started our thinking. And then we went on out to the Dream Center, which was a homeless place that taught them going what we would like to teach.
This is 25 years ago.
This was 26 years ago. This was the year before we started, really. And then we went to Jack Hayford's church and met a couple, the Tavanis, that did Wow Jams, and the Wow Jam was winning our world. Linda was Peaches from Peaches and Herb, reunited again.
Oh, sure.
And so anyway, we invited them, and they came and set up at the 3 projects. And it was also the first national night out that we were going to do in Murfreesboro. And so again, this gave us a lot of exposure, and plus working with the police department and the city and the housing and all that. And Jane got on the phone and just started calling churches and asked them if they'd be interested in helping. And there were representatives from over 40 different churches that volunteered to help.
Fantastic.
And so again, this is really a God thing that helped. There were over 300 people that made declarations for Jesus.
Wow.
And so follow up, was so we could see, man, that is really something. But anyway, that's kind of what got us started. The second half of that, though, is we kept seeing everyone in the community that would say, what can I do to help? And
that's the spirit of Murfreesboro.
That's the spirit of Murfreesboro. What can I do to help? So with those two things in mind, what can we do to develop relationships, and what can we do to use volunteers to help the people? Then that's how we got started. That's the thing that started. Fortunately, the city had just got a weed and seed grant, and Franklin Heights was so bad you didn't even go over there at night.
Really?
It was really bad.
Well, that would be about the worst.
I didn't know it, but I was so naive. We went over there anyway. But anyway, they set up a police precinct, and the city school came in. And so Patsy Nolan with the housing department gave us an apartment over there and said, if you want to, since we've been working and getting to know the people, if you want to come over here and teach computer class and some GED and help, then she let us have an apartment. So that's where we got started. Victory Christian gave us a place that we give food away, and so we were just kind of scattered out.
Where did Greenhouse Ministries get its name?
All right, that's always a story. We were working part of the time out of the old creamery, and it has a green roof.
Oh, okay.
And my daughter and wife were sitting there, and they were thinking, and someone had asked us, well, now what are we going to do for a name? And So they were looking at the green roof, and they said, you know, what do we really want to do? What we really want to do is plant and grow hope.
Fantastic.
And said, what better than a greenhouse? And so that's where the name of Greenhouse Ministries came from.
Fantastic.
And we plant and grow hope in Murfreesboro.
And where was your first regular location? Not
from there we moved to the over on Lytle Street, and the Red Cross had been in the building, and it's fun. I can tell you stories after stories, but as we were remodeling, it was amazing how many people would just come by and, what are you doing? We'd tell them. They say, well, I do finish work. I can help you with the baseboards, and I can help you. They helped us lay the carpet, and I mean,
you had
volunteers just came by, painters came by, and so we opened the last week in August of 01 there, and I had gotten my insurance license because I thought I'd need something to make some money
to help support your
commitment. On the morning of September the 11th, I happened to be doing a presentation. We had just opened a presentation over at the housing department, and when it broke in,
9/11.
Right, 9/11. So I went back to the office. Never used my license again. God just favored us.
Directed you right there.
We missed a lot of paychecks, but we never we never missed anything.
You didn't miss a meal.
But the building had been the Red Cross building, so everyone started coming by and thinking it was the Red Cross. So we were able to tell them what we did.
Sure.
And a lot of people got involved from that, and then we would send them over to the Red Cross.
So your mission statement that you originally established still serves as the same foundation for you.
It does.
25 years later.
This is the thing that I am so excited. Christy, my daughter, is now our executive director.
Oh, and you're emeritus now?
Right. I am now the founder and not the director.
Oh, and you've got to
and
put the emeritus in
one
your
of the
name
most fun things I can do is when somebody calls me and asks me something, I said, that's a Christy question.
Well, I have a different term for you, and I think it probably had more of an impact on how you have made Greenhouse, for you and so many other people, so successful, is you're a coach. You were certainly a coach on the field at Harding, and you even the coach of motivation, strategy, techniques, and so forth. Your coaching life has impacted your post-coaching life.
It really has. I have, as I told you, when I was even working out in the oil field, I saw those little leagues things out there, and they were needing some help, and so they gave me one of the teams.
Sure.
And there I was, at that time, I was just 18.
So I would call you coach of Greenhouse.
But I was, and then the interesting thing, because I had to take so many science classes and everything like that, and math classes, I thought that, I'd get my degree in that. And then I hit an upper level math class, and I went in and told the professor, I said, if you would explain how to do these problems, then I can know how to work them. But when you just give the problems and won't explain what it process, he said, I didn't think you'd make this class when you started. So I dropped and changed to being a coach because that's what I wanted to do anyway.
Wow. Do you have as I recall in our conversations over the years, you had a pretty good winning session and winning seasons.
Well, we all of my coaching years, I was never below 500.
Wow.
I was assistant coach, defensive coordinator in college, and then I of course coached both football and track, which a lot of colleges don't do both, do not do both. I was fortunate enough. I coached 17 All-Americans.
Tremendous.
And of course, this is Division II.
Sure.
It's not Division I. But I did have some. I did have some pretty good athletes to work with, and
you coach baseball too?
No,
no, you didn't.
No,
even though that was your sport.
Well, yes, but
I love these correlations.
You know, I was probably a better baseball player than any, but I really enjoyed football,
okay.
and I loved working the track because I liked the strategy and the individual work and you can change one little thing, and it can make all the difference in the world, or help change their outlook at looking at something. So
isn't that what you're doing?
Right,
men and women in greenhouse.
You know, it's interesting. I use my coaching philosophy all the time. My coaching philosophy is I want to make sure that my kids knew what we were going to do, why we were going to do it, and how we were going to do it. And that has been my philosophy in anything I approach. You know, all right, now what are we going to do, and why are we going to do it? And then the how is always the big thing.
Exactly.
But if you work with people and know that it's not always you demand you've got to do it this way, let's work together and see how it's going to make it really work. Then it makes a difference.
See, I can categorize you. For many years, of course, it still is. I don't know what the intensity is, but it certainly was when I lived in California, between the University of Southern California and UCLA. Those were crosstown rivals. And they had two separate coaches for a long, long time. The coach of USC said to his tacklers, he said, tackle them and make sure they don't get up again. You know, just make sure they're going to be out of the game. The coach of UCLA said, tackle them, take your right hand and help them back up so you can tackle them better the next time. And I think, you know, both represent a different philosophy. I just kind of have you in the second
I'm in
group.
the second one.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Reach your hand out. Tell us about Greenhouse Now. It's programs, it's numbers, it's
it is
the housing that you built.
It is growing, and with it is growing staff. Of course, when we started, there were just Jane and I. We were the only two. It was. We were in the over on Lila Street over a year before we ever hired anyone.
Wow.
And so
80 hours a week, I would imagine.
It was long hours, and we taught classes. The reason we're still open 4 days a week is Jane and I taught classes on Tuesday and Thursday night. So, you know, we put in our
You put it in the time.
We put in our hours. But you know, one of the dreams, and the book that I gave you, my Cliff Notes. 0.20, because I had one earlier, so this is my the second one that we have collected my Cliff Notes off newsletter. But so many of them are about what happened over there and how somebody gave us a warehouse so we'd have furniture and everything. But one of the dreams that my wife and daughter had was for a thrift store. And so when Mr. Beatty got ready to close his shop, he called us and said, would you be interested in this building? And so it was absolutely just what we needed. And of course, Jane says I'm like air. Anything I get in, I fill up. And so pretty soon we're out of room over there, and First Baptist Church let us use a building down on the corner for education building. And so then we have the thrift store, which is the Garden Patch, which is, I'm a little prejudiced, but I think it's the very best thrift store in Middle Tennessee.
Wow.
And Miss Cheap kind of thinks it's one of the better ones, too. She comes down fairly often. And the third dream that
You're in great time,
we had is that I wanted a men's program of some sort. We had a sort of men's program off and on, but we wanted something where we could really give a program and let them really work toward becoming the man that God wants them to be and that they want to be.
I want to talk more about that, including it's been, 3 years that you've had the housing?
Right.
We'll talk about that as soon as we come back after this break in a moment.
paid for by Christian Care Ministry.
You know, a lot of times you have to choose between something high quality or something that saves you money. But if you could get both, why not? Especially when it comes to health care, and that is MediShare. You get both. Many families save $500 a month with MediShare, and that's huge. But it's also true that people wind up way more satisfied, too. The member satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. That's because MediShare works. It has for more than 30 years. It's a community of Christians who have shared more than $5 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth. They love the huge PPO network. So, yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price in 2 minutes. Here's the number. Just call 855-51-BIBLE. That's 855-51-BIBLE, 855-51-BIBLE.
At the Garden Patch Thrift Shop on Spring Street, we believe in more than just great deals. Every purchase you make helps Greenhouse Ministries serve over 70 families a day, offering hope and changing lives in our community. From name brand clothing to household items or even large appliances, you'll find everything you need at prices that will fit your budget. Plus, 100% of the proceeds go back to the ministry. Visit the Garden Patch Thrift Shop today across from the tall NHC building in downtown Murfreesboro, where shopping changes lives.
At Bud's Tire Pros, we sell all major brands of tires, and we invite you to stop by today for that next set of tires. Or maybe you need us to check out your vehicle before you head out of town. We offer everything from brakes to batteries, alignments, and more. No appointments necessary, just stop on by.
I'm Allison Mitchell with Bud's Tire Pros. We're located on East Main Street, exactly 3 miles from the town square, 1 mile past Rutherford Boulevard. Visit us online at budstirepros.tn.com.
Rutherford County is one of the fastest growing communities in Tennessee. This is Mike Klassen, the general manager at Middle Point Landfill. As a Class 1 landfill, Middle Point accepts non-hazardous municipal solid waste, approved special waste, and commercial waste. We have served this region for 2 decades, providing free disposal to all Rutherford County residents and low-cost disposal to Rutherford County businesses. Learn more at middlepointlandfill.com. For public services, we are sustainability in action.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
This is Bill Krause, third and final segment of the WGNS Radio Roundtable on Thursday morning. And most hopefully you are, like I am, enjoying thoroughly the shared conversation and comments from Mr. Cliff Sharp, who is now the founder, and I'm going to call him coach, of Greenhouse Ministry. I just think there's such a great linkage there. And you were beginning to talk about your commitment to men in need and the building a few years ago of housing and the educational program, in fact, called the Life University. I love that term.
Right, Living University. They made us change this. I just see this is an old one. They made us change that
because there is a Life University.
There is a Life University.
That's right.
And I got a letter from a lawyer. Said we were infringing. I said no problem. We will now be Living University.
All right.
So. But the idea of helping people that have not really had a background in what it takes to be part of society.
Sure, a survivor, if nothing else.
Yeah, right. And one of the things that we do most, we say, most chaos in somebody's life comes because they don't know how to manage their time or their money.
Mm-hmm.
And so we hit that very, very heavy on what it takes to really manage your time.
Yep.
To set goals, to develop habits, all of these things, and your money. It's really easy to spend less than you make.
Well, money
save some.
Money is a tool, not an objective.
Absolutely.
And it's a tool. A tool's going to work for you, or a tool's not going to work for you. But it depends on how you work the tool.
It really is. And one of the things that we really stress is what you do to build society is outside of what you do for work. It doesn't matter whether you're a blue-collar worker or whatever. It's what you do outside.
Exactly.
How are you involved in the community and in society? And so, we try to encourage the guys to, get involved for sure with the church, get involved with, some organization, volunteer, and do things that you're not just inward all the time.
Well, you even provide, and I think this is a secret weapon that you have. These folks have never been thanked for who they are. They've never been, quote, complimented for what they do. And you extend out to them that they're human beings that are also being appreciated as human beings rather than just people in need. Now, a few years ago, you built a new facility. Talk about that. How many units? And
there are 17 apartments on the second floor, and then it's 24,000. It's 12,000 square feet on each level, and again, it's community effort. Sure. Everything that we do, we try to work through the community and the churches, and most of it is paid for. Christy Houston, of course, was a big part of what a great organization Christy Houston is, and for our community. But it is full, and we've got a waiting list.
What's the criteria, would you say?
The criteria basically is they've got to be working. They pay tuition, not rent. That way it goes with the program, and if they don't want to follow the program, then
they flunk.
Right.
They flunk
out. It's not rent.
It's not evicted. It's flunking.
Right. Yes. And they have to really want to change, and we really emphasize it's not rehab. We have a lot of people over there that have gone through rehab, but this is not a rehab. And one of the problems a lot of people have is they have too much time.
Yes.
And they're not used to using their time. And so we tell them, this is self-discipline. This is somebody's not going to say, you have got to do this, and this. You're expected to do it because you want to improve yourself.
Exactly. Before we conclude in a few minutes, do give the ability how people can get in touch with Greenhouse for many, many different programs, many, many different abilities to assist, many, many different abilities to support by donations, etc. So how do they reach out to Coach at Greenhouse?
The easy way, of course, is the website, greenhousemen, that's min.org. And, or, of course, 615-494-0499. They can always find the phone number. But every Thursday morning we have a volunteer orientation where they can come and find out the history and philosophy of Greenhouse and take a tour and see if they may be interested in, or where they would be interested in volunteering.
I can imagine you could keep us going for several hours with the success stories of people that have gone through the program, graduated, and are doing extraordinarily well.
That is the book that Cliff Notes 2.0. I just started reading. Of course, it just came out, and remembering all of those stories, it is just so encouraging to me. And a lot of them are how the community has worked together. This is one of the things that I think I'm very proud of, is that Greenhouse has been a catalyst to help pull the community together. And it really is an unbelievable community that yes. You can pick up the phone and call any one of 30, 40 different organizations, and that they're going to help, or that they can pick up the phone and call you. Look at a charity tracker the other day, and I saw something that we're able to help with. You know, a lady needing some car work, and so you know, so it's really easy just to say, hey, we'll take care of this.
I would imagine after 25 years that you could be walking into a grocery store, or you could be walking into a restaurant, and somebody's going to come up to you and say, you may not remember me, but I remember you because you were the turning page of my life story.
All the time. And there is nothing more exciting. I just get cold chills some kind.
Yes.
You know, I had a lady not too long ago that had taken my computer class. Again, I taught computer class. I know nothing about computers, but I could show them what I knew. And at that time...
I would show them where the plug is, and that's about all I know.
But anyway, she said, you know what I've been doing for the last 19 years? She said, I am been working at the same company with a computer.
And she learned that.
And she said, and I've got 2 daughters that have graduated from college and are teachers.
Terrific.
And you know, you just say, wow. One of the things that we were able to do real early is that we worked with the Atlas program. And so they wanted to try something. They said, let's take a school, which was Bellwood School. They said, let's see how many of the parents would come to work on a GED. So we had 24 of them that showed up, and they fed the kids and all that. And we did a 6 weeks program. There were 17 of them graduated. I mean, that really is amazing.
Yes,
you know,
is.
17 out of the 24 completed their GED. One of them was an 80-year-old grandmother. She was so excited.
Yes.
And we had a graduation with, you know,
caps and
gowns, and it was just, you know, so excited. And one of the gals that was in there, I see her quite often, and she says, hello, teacher.
You know, when you do things like that, and this is probably my religious philosophy, is that when you do reach the pearly gates to make the journey, and suddenly St. Peter may ask you, well, do you qualify to come in these gates? And suddenly there's a huge crowd standing behind St. Peter and saying, yes, let him in. Let him in now. He did so much for us when we were down there. So, you know, giving of yourself is not just the fact of a tax deduction if you write a check. It's not just the fact if you pat yourself on the back and say, I'm a good person. It really is an exercise of the heart. We do a lot of exercise of walking to make our bodies more healthy and survive, but the exercise of the heart would best be defined as what you can do for an organization and see its impact. One of the many beauties of Greenhouse, and I certainly remember this from the days when I was with Hark 4 or 5 years ago, and I would always see that the resources of Greenhouse were primarily, exclusively used to help. It wasn't huge administrative costs. It wasn't huge overhead and fancy buildings or expensive cars that you drive and so forth. It was going to the person. And I always remember that the evaluation of Greenhouse by the funders, by city and county governments, and we were very much of an advocate of that, was basically you served people. And you know, it isn't much different than your whole commitment to life. And as you told your early life, you were serving young people as a coach, and you were bringing the best. And with the number of All-Americans, men who became really significant in life because you gave them the lessons of life. Can anybody volunteer to be a instructor at the university?
Absolutely. I tell you what, we always need them. We're working on mentors right now. That's one of the things that we have fallen off on. We would love to get a mentor for each one, but as of yet, it's kind of gone off and on. But this is probably one of the pushes that we're going to do. So for men, if you're interested in helping, that would be a great thing. We always need peer counselors. Our ministry is really not the giving the food and clothes and that. it's the talking to the person and praying with them. That's what our ministry is. And like yesterday, I had three people come into me wanted to talk to me yesterday. They did not need anything. They just needed to talk. And they were, they were needing some advice, but it was nothing, really. They didn't need food, clothes, anything like that. And that is the thing that just really excites you.
Well,
we have built a trust.
We don't listen in today's society. We've got to listen to people, whether they're crying out or whether they're wanting some form of recognition as a human being.
Right. And I love to listen to the stories.
Oh, well, you and I can go on for hours and hours. Cliff Sharp has so many things, and it's so great to see you again. And I'll say this publicly. Put me down as a volunteer.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm going to holler at you.
I teach 11 classes currently, and I do lots of other things, but I always can add time into my commitment and dedication.
I appreciate that, and somebody will be in touch with you.
Absolutely. This has been really a delightful WGNS Radio Roundtable visit with Cliff Sharp, who is the founder, emeritus, spark plug, along with his lovely wife and daughter, of an organization that does so much, so the unsung heroes of Rutherford County, and we appreciate that. Thank you for coming, Cliff.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come over and visit with you.
And we'll have you back. Bring another Look magazine.
All right, we'll do it.
We'll see you next week.